My past will outlast me. Ask me if I agree with my choice.
Everybody, welcome back to the Roundtable Show After Dark. This show is basically started out of a necessity because I end up running into a lot of people in this community that I want to have conversations with that do not fit in my regular show. And this guest is an absolutely phenomenal one. I first saw her on Typical Skeptic, and she actually did a galactic reading for me on that show. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is just fascinating. She's so in tune. She's got that intuition. She's worked with the police on many famous cases. She's been on Coast to Coast AM 3 times, and she's an absolutely brilliant intuitive and onto some really cool stuff. And like I said, the reason I first wanted to have her on was to talk about her reading. But then I got into what she's doing on her YouTube channel, The Secret of Everything. And some of it really relates to the programs that we've been discussing over the last few weeks. She's going to talk today about NPCs and background characters and being gang stalked as well, if we can get into that a bit. And she has an amazing presentation that she's going to share with us. It's Dr. Kimberly McGeorge.
Oh, you're so sweet. All right, let me figure out if I can share my screen. Okay, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. So, okay, I think I can maybe do it now. Yay. Okay, hold on, give me a sec. All right, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it there.
All right, so we're going to, just for the sake of title, I'm going to title this NPCs in the Matrix Simulation Game, and we're going to kind of wander our way. So feel free to interrupt and comment or question. Totally. And speaking of Matrix simulation, I'll leave my door open for now, but my dogs just started barking, of course, when I'm doing a presentation. That's all part of it, which we may or may not get into. So let's get started. I'll just start with my slides. Oh, well, let me just say this really quick. So I didn't really intend to be an expert on NPCs, but one of the reasons I feel like I have a little different knowledge base to bring to this subject than a lot of people that theoretically talk about it is I am constantly taking pictures and filming pictures of my gang stalkers, as well as cryptozoology creatures like Dogman and Sasquatch. And when you do that, you inadvertently catch other things. So I've caught, and I wish I could have, found the picture. Eventually I will for one of these presentations, or I'll put it on my YouTube, but I do have a couple pictures of gang stalker cars and people I found that are absolutely matrix see-through, which I'll talk about on one of these slides, but I couldn't find it for this presentation. So my observation is, and if you have watched, you guys can go to Secret to Everything on YouTube, and I do show you some of the gang stalker creatures and beings that are not human. They're not necessarily NPCs. They may, I haven't really analyzed them to see if they have a soul, but I'll just dig in and we can go from there. Yeah. So first of all, if you guys aren't aware, in my opinion, and every day I exist, I become more and more convinced of this. We are in what I call an Earth holodeck simulation game, exactly like Star Trek shows us on the holodeck. So they would go to the holodeck and then they would enter into, they would, type a program in, and they would enter into a complete simulation. And as you're watching it, you would forget that they were in a game or in a simulation, because they would enter into these worlds and they were encountering creatures and each other and all sorts of people. I do have, which I'm saving for, I don't know what I'm saving for. I'll probably be dead and never use it, but I do have pictures from NASA of the dome and the holodeck and what we're on. But I am saving them because, and usually I've tried to post them before on Twitter. They won't let me. I've tried to post them on Facebook. They won't let me. So I'm like, I'm going to save this for something that's worth risking my probably life for, because they really don't want this information getting out. But all that to say, even though, NASA gives us a lot of sketchy stuff, they also have a lot of cameras and technology that is semi-accurate that we don't necessarily know how to get our hands on or have access to that gives a lot of clues to this game. So this is kind of the basis of where I'm coming from, in case you guys are wondering. So the first thing I want to discuss is there's a big confusion between the game, the normal gameplay, and the gang stalking and targeting gameplay. So I wanted to address that a little bit. So there's two types of gameplay where you could easily run into NPC filler characters. You could also run into real creation fire beans, which I'll get to at the end what that is. But if we're all targeted. So first of all, I was talking to one of my clients and she's like, it was really freaking me out because every time I thought of something, it would come up on social media. And I'm like, oh yeah, they read your thoughts. And she's like, what? They don't just listen to my phone calls. They read my thoughts. I'm like, yeah, they've always, when my dad used to tell me only God can read your thoughts, nobody else can. Well, it wasn't too shocking for me because one of my abilities is I have the ability to merge completely with another person and be them. So I've always been able to read people's thoughts. So obviously, if I, with my abilities, can read people's thoughts, how much more can they read our thoughts? Which also plays into why this happens. So every single being on Earth, whether or not you're a high value asset or a low value asset or no asset at all, and they could care less if you live or die, has an electronic frequency tag, markers, implants, signature that is unique to themselves, which is attached to the satellite. I'm getting a helicopter above me right now, shockingly, which is attached to the satellite. You can't make this stuff up. Attached to the satellite programs. So we all have these frequency fences around our, I don't know if you can hear, around our, sorry, it is distracting. I'm going to let it go. Bye a sec.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Around our property so that when we leave or around our house, so when we go outside of this, it sends a signal, which then goes to the satellites, which then pings to whoever. Some of it's ignored because you aren't a high value asset and some of it is paid attention to. Me, when I leave, a lot of times I'll get what's called a staked out or mobbed. So mobbing is when there has been a text that's gone out to a number of people literally on their phones. And they're like, go to the gas station on the corner of whatever right now within the next 10 minutes, because they know I'm going to the gas station. So, you might go, I live out in the mountains in the country. So really I should be able to go to the little country gas station. There should be no one there or one person there. But when I go there, there's like 20 people there. It looks like a Chicago gas station. And I know that they've sent out the thing. Now that's mobbing. It's just a different feeling. However, you may note that it happens to you and you may be like, I am positive I am no one. And that could be true. It might not be true unless you've really had someone look at you that has the ability to tell you what programs you're in and what corporations you work for, et cetera, like we do when we do a secret space scan. You may be more of an asset than you think because you may not be knowing what's happening when they're using technology to freeze time and take you, or what's happening when you're at night and how they're taking you or transferring your consciousness at night. So you may not know, you may be getting mobbed and may not know it, but all of us, you could literally, if you are a real soul in the game, you will probably rarely or ever be alone in public. Because what happens with filler characters in the really old video games, this was really obvious when you did multiplayer role-playing games, because they filled the characters. Often they didn't go out and you didn't have other people interact with you. It was an inclusive AI game where you would go into a room with your little sword or your cave and you're looking around, there's no one there, right? And then all of a sudden the characters start coming in, the monsters start coming in, the other characters, the wizards, the warriors, the witches, whatever, they start coming in. The game fills in as you enter the cave. And then when you go to the next room or the next scene, again, the characters come in. And it was more obvious in the old games. They've improved that a lot. And now, of course, we play with, real people, all over the world, and it's, more interactive. So it works a little different, but it was more obvious, but it works exactly like that. As you go to the grocery store, whether or not you're gang stalked or targeted, the grocery store is going to, fill up. You're not going to get that really great parking lot because you're going to be competing with 3 cars that just pulled in because, you know, again, as you move through the game, the NPC filler characters interact with you. And sometimes, see, here's the thing where I disagree with some of the people that teach and talk about this. People are like, well, sometimes it's for your benefit. Like it'll be a little old grandmother and she'll give you a little piece of wisdom. No, honey bunnies, this is a hell realm game. This is a very, very dark, very depressing, very evil. I mean, you can't even sustain yourself, even if, you know, there's an argument, you know, it's evil to eat plants, it's evil to eat animals, you know, plants are alive. If you've ever read The Secret Life of Plants, you know, plants are alive. They scream too, you guys. You cut it open an orange, you know, that orange is screaming too. So this is a very evil place. If you think about it, even the breatharians, everything has consciousness, you guys. Everything is from the all. The all is 100% conscious. So when you're breathing air, you're hurting something, you're taking from something. You are, you know, there's a negative energy exchange. You're hurting, let's say, oxygen, you know, and breathing out carbon dioxide. And what does carbon dioxide do? It harms other things. So the whole system is effed up, you guys. There is nothing pure you can choose here. It's an absolute freakazoid nightmare level hell realm game. Do you want to say something, Don?
Yeah, it's wild that you say this because I just found a video yesterday and I think it was by Billy Carson and he's explaining how the hyper matrix actually works, that we are all just condensed conscious atoms, right? Every atom on this planet, exactly what you're saying, has a consciousness, right? My shirt has a consciousness. I'm upsetting it right now when I pinch it, right? Because everything we have on that we perceive as humans, you know, right now I'm perceiving you, you're perceiving me, but if we weren't, we'd cease to exist to each other. Like we'd just become a potential.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what you're saying, is like everything here has a consciousness. So that absolutely resonates with what I'm just figuring out now myself. And I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to look him up because I mean, I know I mean, my information, just so you know, I'm probably going to get like nasty comments if I put this on my YouTube channel for saying this, is he's controlled opposition. So then again, a lot of truth, but a lot of like weird programming insert type thing. I will say this too, just on the subject of programming and handling as we go deeper down this rabbit hole, is we all handle each other. And if you're in my classes, I will freely say that. My daughter and I can talk and she can attempt to handle me. I can attempt to handle her. So there is no one pure enough or evolved enough or spiritual enough that they're not a handler. There is a difference, however, between like kind of a subconscious handling and a deliberate handling. Like if I knew your, you know, keywords and I said, you know, like one of the keywords is, you know, forget to remember, remember to forget, which just triggered a ton of people, including myself, that are MK Ultra owns, you know? So if I deliberately say that though, I'm deliberately handling it. If I'm trying to drive for my own agenda, it doesn't even have to be for the secret space. You don't even have to get paid. It could just be for your own selfish, narcissistic agenda. We handle each other. So I want to make it really clear, because you and I were talking off air about this. I am all for panel discussions. I wish I could get 3 people that disagreed with me on a panel that we could have a respectful discussion. But everyone is, like you said, John, too worried about being right and wrong. They're too threatened by me. What is she going to see about me? I'm not going to see anything about you that I don't see in myself, because I'm not coming out there saying I'm perfect and you're evil. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I can see, can you? Are you who you say you are? The reason, Don, I criticize people sometimes isn't because they disagree with me or they have different gifts or abilities with me or they see things differently. It's because they're lying. It's because they're selling 777 psychic sessions, JD, saying they can help, you know, put money in your bank, and they can't. Now, if JD can put more money in my bank, I'm writing a check right now for $777. I'm not against people that can do what they say they can do, you guys. I'm against frauds. I'm against people. I know I'm going off on a tangent. That's me. If you've ever watched my stuff, but I'm against people taking advantage of people, especially people like you and I. We're all seekers. We all have, angst here. We're all trying to remember who we are and figure it out. And we want truth. So I do get angry and I do get offended when, like you said, the distractors are coming in, robbing me of that opportunity and my clients of that opportunity to heal. They're taking my money and clients' money that could be put toward healing or restoration, and it's going to buy these guys Porsches that can't do crap. And so, so go ahead.
It's very, you have to, in our community, have that be able to differentiate between shaman and charlatan, because it is so woven.
I love that. I'll write that down.
You have to be able to discern that.
But let me ask you a question really quick before we go on. How effective, and I know you're new to this, but I know who you are, like all time, all space. Like, how effective do you think the general community, and I'm talking about, make it broad, paranormal, consciousness, alternative healing, like the whole thing, secret space, whatever, all of it, how effective do you think they are at discerning truth?
I don't really know, because like I just recently had an interview on one of the other shows I do with Maya, and somebody laid it out for me, and it's a principle that I'm trying to implement in my own life right now, is like deep dive everything. Because if you can do it without getting stuck in it and just overlap it, you'll eventually see the truth, right? And that's what I think a lot of us are afraid to do, is to understand each other, right? Because right now we're just, this one's quarreling here, this one's quarreling here, this one doesn't believe this, but everything overlaps in some section. And that's where the truth is. It's, we have to get past the ego and wanting to be right. That
I agree. And I mean, in the last 13 years, I came from being in religion, being a born again Christian, even though I wasn't deep into it. That was what I identified with, and then being into all the Christ consciousness, to being completely 100% rejected all religious programming, including any metaphysical Eastern religious programming, which is no better or different than Western religious programming. It just may have more of the truth in it. And so, I've radically changed. If I wasn't willing to change my point of view or my opinion when new information came in, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I'm in a tremendously different, there was a time, which always surprises people, 20 years ago, I would have said aliens and ETs don't exist, which is hysterically funny considering I am one. So it's, I agree with you. I just have a problem with, the only thing I have a problem with is those that are either under so much programming that they believe their own lies. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could really believe you're psychic and not be psychic. That's totally possible in this world with all the corporations and the mind control and the drugs and the programming. But I think a lot of people see an opportunity, Don. They're like, oh, this guy's charging $1,000 for a session. That looks like easy money. I'm a good talker. I'm going to say I'm a healer and I'm going to charge. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's a lot of opportunists. And you just said there's a total frequency difference between a shaman and a charlatan too. And then again, I think really quickly before I go on, I want to address there's different levels. And I think there's a lack of discernment in that. You can't, expect, you kind of get what you pay for. But not everybody that's charging $1,500, they may be real, but they may be real on a $97 level. You know what I'm saying? And some of the $97 people may be the ones that should be charging $5,000. So again, the benefit of learning to read frequencies and remembering who you are, which in your all-time, all-space self, that's the whole language. It's the whole language of everything. I mean, all the way back to the all. So if you learn how to read frequencies and go get the information, you won't be, I'm not saying you, I'm saying all of you guys will cease to be, being deceived. All right, moving on. Sorry, I went off on that rant tangent.
Just real quick, off camera, my partner handed me her notebook, and when you said that phrase, you actually triggered a memory about her child's father and former handler.
Whoa.
That was injected into conversation.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. I just wanted to give you that before we move on.
Yeah, so I apologize if that was a negative thing. That can actually work either way. It can work positive or negative if you're
It's okay. You just gave us something to analyze about what that conversation was about. So
Okay, cool. Awesome. Love that. Okay, moving on. Okay,
yeah.
so again, to illustrate mobbing, mobbing is when I go in the grocery store and all of a sudden everyone's around me. So if it's an NPC filler game, they're not going to be around me. They're going to be dispersed throughout the grocery store evenly. They're going to be in every aisle. They're not going to be following you around the store. And I know it. So a way you can test mobbing versus filler people is you can do deliberate things. So let's say you want to, go A, B, C, D through the grocery store. Well, don't do that. Like, go up to the front, pretend like you're going to check out. Does everyone follow you? Go back to the ice cream after you almost check out. Does everyone follow you? Go to the way opposite side of the store. Does everyone follow you? You're being targeted and gang stalked. Mobbing, it won't change. The people will kind of stay in their own area as you move around. When you're being targeted and gang stalked, you're the center and everything moves around you. So that's a test and the difference. Here's a great thing. How do we tell, who are NPCs and who isn't, who has a soul and who doesn't? NPCs don't have auras, right? That's how we can tell. Well, kiddos, everything has energy. So your plants have an aura. My telephone has an aura. So no, we cannot tell who's NPCs just because you guys can see auras, or think you can see auras, or feel energy. Everything has energy coming off of it. So this is absolute false. A soulless being can absolutely, and I mean an empty soulless being, not even a jumped soulless being, absolutely can have just as much of an aura as you can. So that is false. Discernment helps. We just kind of talked about this. The spiritual community in general lacks discernment. You are buying books from, paying to go to conferences with NPCs or presents prankster beings. It's super sad to me. Or as we talked about, the crazy egos. What do I mean by possessed prankster beings? I mean, these are either empty people that have been jumped, or even real fire creation people that are not holding their bodies. And a lot of people in the secret space community do not hold their bodies because they're being pulled out of their bodies, not just at night, or they're bodily being taken and messed with so much and put in all sorts of technology and machines and time traveling, which will really mess you up. But their consciousness is also being pulled out. So they're used to being out of body, and it's hard to get rooted and grounded and back in your body. So even if they're half out of their body, even well-meaning people can get jumped by lower level entities, negative ETs. Positive ETs will never jump you. People are like, oh, I channel, Susie Sally, the Wahoo from, who's Arctuarian. No, honey, you don't. You don't. And they're part of me, and they come into me and they speak through me. No, you don't. You think you do, but you don't. How do I know? Well, there's a million ways I know, but let's take all my gifts and all my technology out of it. And I want to say this very firmly. Positive ETs would never violate a sovereign being. They wouldn't violate a tree. A positive ET wouldn't jump into a tree or a dog or a cat or a mailbox. They don't violate space. So anytime you're looking at someone and you're seeing someone, you can tell there's other beings there, and often you can. Human discarnates, it's really interesting. Try this when you guys are watching video podcasts. And I'm not saying it couldn't happen now, because it certainly can, and it probably will at some point and will happen again. But sometimes you can literally see people's faces change. And if you blow it up, you can see like old women's faces over them, old men's faces, kids' faces over them. They'll get jumped with human discarnates, like while they're speaking. Again, because if you don't hold your body, and even sometimes when you do, you're going to get jumped. But what I find more hilarious and kind of horrible, sometimes these aren't even negative ETs trying to promote alien agendas or anything like that, or that work for some of the corporations or programs. Sometimes these are just beings that love to have a joke. They think it's hilarious that they can get somebody to stand a platform or write a book or give a whole speech and show slides about something that is totally not true. And the beings just laugh. And here's again what I don't think we use our minds enough for about all these consciousness forms, no matter what we're calling them. they're not different from me than you guys. They have intelligence. Some of them are older than you. Some of them are wiser than you. And guess what? Most of them have a hell of a lot more memory than any of us here on the planet. And when somebody comes out and says that they have full memory, I haven't done this, but I'm going to start. I'm going to start looking, because I have the ability to look through and be like, oh, that's a false memory insert. So again, we have false memory inserts about stupid things in our normal lives. I'm talking when you were 7, when you were 11, when you were 23. How much more are you going to have false memory inserts in? This happened when I was at Montauk. Thankfully, we have the technology and ability to tell if you were at Montauk, because you carry that frequency in your soul. So you can tell me all day long. All I have to do is look at your soul, and I'll be like, you were there, you weren't there, you were there big time, you were there one day, you were in the lab, you did, time travel with Duncan, you were the secretary, you dug graves, I can tell. And so here's where I think we're going. I think we're coming out of the age of charlatan, and we're coming into the age of shamanism, as you would say, because they've given us the technology. And a lot of us have upgraded to where you can't play these games with us anymore. There's a new rising of standard of truth. And guess what? We used to want to be deceived, I think. I think we used to want to kind of, not do the work, and we used to want to be comfortable. And I think because we're actually in 4.4 in the game, we're not in 3D anymore. I think a lot of us are more willing to do the work. We have an appetite for the truth. 13 years ago, nobody had an appetite for the truth. All the people wanted the magic pill. I was able to go on 13 years ago, and I feel like even though I was real, I was a little bit of a charlatan, because I was like, I can heal you. I can heal anything. I can heal everything. And I don't even advertise myself as a healer anymore. Do I have healing ability? Yes. Is your life going to be probably transformed pretty profoundly interaction with me? I let you be surprised. I don't lead with that because I don't think that's what some people want, that, but I think people really want the truth. Am I under programming? Do I have false memories? What false memories do I have? Now, not everybody. Some people are old school and they still want to ride the old, train because it's lucrative. But we have to start looking at someone and saying, okay, just because somebody gets on YouTube, you guys, or a beautiful podcast like Don's, or my podcast, doesn't mean they're telling the truth. It also doesn't mean they're lying. They may think they're telling the truth. So no, I'm not casting shade at people that we may find out, and probably will find out, are full of baloney. I'm not casting shade, because this is a mind F here. There are so many layers of programming. There are so many types of programming, including severe self-deception. There's things in us we don't want to see. It's much, this is so funny to me. I want to ask your opinion of this. What do you think of all the people going around saying, and I know Ra's one of them, and I don't know enough about him to comment. He's kind of lucky. I haven't looked his way yet. It's coming. But a lot of people will go around saying they're Enki. That's very, very popular right now. Do you know how many people right now in the secret space and consciousness? I know about 30. And every single one of them insists they're the only one. What do you think about that? I just want your take on that.
Well, okay, that would actually get into my current understanding of the reality in which we live, in that we are all part of a shared consciousness that came from beyond. Like right now, we are in a holographic matrix, and please don't take that as there is no creator. And I am quoting Billy Carson, because the holographic matrix works on the principle of us having a solid and light body. Now, where I'm going with that is, like, some of us, I just got mind wiped. You son of a bitch.
I know that happens, doesn't it? Yep, it happens to me too.
But yes, can you repeat your question? I'm so sorry. I just got.
No, you're fine. No, so 30 people are saying they're Enki. Explain, what do you think about that?
Okay, because we're all shared consciousness, they're fractalized, right? Maybe each one of these people, Enki is a part of them. It's like during a hypnosis session, I found out that part of my higher being is a fractal of Gabriel. That doesn't mean I am Gabriel. It means part of my conscious existence is as of Gabriel in a different because time and space are all happening at the exact same time.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I do believe that these people, because there is a great conscious awareness coming about, may actually think that they are Enki. But it's no, Enki is just a part of each one of these individuals, but they all believe they're him because they haven't been able to separate their consciousness yet.
I like that. I'm
Yeah.
going to take it a step further to what I see, and I'm going to talk the language of frequency, which is, of course, how I talk most things. What if, Don, let's use the Enki example, not the Gabriel one. Let's say you think you're Enki, just for argument's sake. And I start looking at your thing and I'm like, he was not Enki. And I look and I never see this particular signature anywhere, even what you're saying. So let's say I match it against what you're saying, I still don't see it. But guess what I do see? I see you served Enki as his manservant for 5,000 years. Guess what? You've got a pretty damn hard Enki frequency in your field, don't you? That's another thing I'm seeing with people. So again, I think there, and then let's pull further back out. Does it effing matter? No. I am not going to think more or less of you if you're Enki or Gabriel or, you know what I mean? Jesus Christ. We've got so much more problems on our plates than who we were in other fractals, other lives, other games, other realms. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is where we're living and we need to clean up here. So, it's funny how we can go all micro and be like, it doesn't matter at all. We can go, like my daughter says, she's like, well, mom, for F's sake, she goes, everybody's Enki. Like, if you want to go all the way back to the all, right, we're all Enki. We're all Cleopatra. We're all Napoleon. We're all Gabriel. We're all Arcturian. We're all Palladian. We're all everything, I mean, of course, that's the giant pullback. And we can go medium. So I also think we need to, when we talk to some of these people, we're like, maybe they are completely delusional, but maybe we need to say, well, what level are you looking at? What level are you Enki at? Are you Enki at the collective? Are you Enki at the middle? Maybe you were involved with Enki, married to Enki, slept with Enki. You have sex with Enki 80 times or 800 times. You probably have his frequency in your physical being that, goes on your soul too. So again, or let's drill down today. Did this fragment in this body, from within this body, are you radiating an Enki frequency? Because we're so collective. So you could be, as you said, and a whole lot of other frequencies too. So there's so many ways to look at it. And I think we're just so simple-minded. I'm Enki. Okay. And when that falls out, we can drill it down and say, okay, well, sure, everybody is. Or I can be like, well, yeah, you were married to him for 800,000 years. So you think you are, you know what I mean? Anyway, sorry, that's just my theory.
Well, you just said off camera, does that involve ego too? Because, you found something to attach to that is very powerful, right? Like myself, a lot of people know my story that I was telling you about how the series of nightmares, the podcast, the secret.
Right.
I almost identified myself as secret or super soldier program, right? That's almost where my ego identified myself. But then something made me aware of like, okay, well, if that exists, then that means everything exists, right? So what I wanted to roll back to, though, is when you were saying about the versions of beings above us and being that we are all attached energetically, is that higher density versions of yourself interacting with you when they mess with you or give you advice? Because is it always evil aliens that you can hear, or is there higher density versions of yourself talking to you as well?
I think that is an individual thing. I mean, again, here we go. Technically, we're always connected to everything, technically. But practically speaking, in the 3D, 4D, which I believe we're in, when we look at the energy fields, we're not. So we have a thing called a Hara line, and the Hara line is part of the light body that runs through the center of your physical avatar all the way back to the all. And that makes for easy connection, Don. So when my hora line is lit up and connected to my soul star or my over soul grouping, both, I have a clear connection to those aspects, to all realms, all aspects, all 1,000 or multiple thousand that I'm playing in right now, and I can go there and whatever. I also have a clear connection to quote past, future, all information about me, and I have a clear connection to the all and everything in between. When these beings come in and they bump us out of alignment, energetic alignment, it gets muddy. Who is speaking? Who am I accessing? Who am I hearing? And that's where the tech is really helpful, because you can, in a glance, look at the, I'm going to actually run an aura on you just for fun right now. You can look at the aura and see what's going on. Are you holding your body? And that's where I used to teach to go out of the body for spirituality or connection. Now I can't get people to stay in their bodies, even, medicine journeys, we'll call them, LOL. They take you out of your body. And I find that very sketchy. And I know we're not talking about that. That could be a whole nother teaching and a whole nother show. I just want to run an aura really on you while we're talking. I want to look at you. But yeah, so there's a lot of ways to look at it. Am I right? Are you right? Am I wrong? You're wrong. It doesn't matter. In the end of the day, it's an individual experience. And we chose here, in my opinion, to come here to play a game and to remember who we are and find our way back to this information and back to these fragmented parts of ourselves and ultimately back to the all. And I would even say, Don, back to each other in a, not in a fake love and light way, but in a very, like realistically relational way, I would say. So that's what we're here to do. But then the other entities and energies come in and they make it a tangled, gross, yuck mess, kind of,
Yeah. Well, no, exactly that. Like, I think we are here for exactly what you and I are doing right now. It's information sharing. Like, it's funny that you and I can speak on this level because you are highly educated and I had a child in grade 11 and left high school. Right. The understanding of the universe that I've come across in the last 6 months has been all through meditation, hypnosis journeys, and sleep. Like I've woken up and just known. Right. I actually did a podcast with Rob. I was like, hey, want to see something cool? And showed him military bases on Google Earth. And then I completed with showing him a Space Force base up in Alaska that nobody's supposed to know about. I was like,
really?
I've just woken up, my pineal is activated, and it's an amazing time. And I love connecting with people like you.
And I think we activate each other too when you come, in and possibly soul groups or, frequency resonance, you activate each other, which is really cool, I think as well. I'm going to look at your aura is interesting. I'm not going to actually talk about it on camera. Okay. Because some interesting things going on. No, it's not horrible. It's a mix. I mean, it's really interesting. One of the things I'll talk about that's really lit up for you is a lot of new energy coming in, a lot of new information, and it's very high level and it's very light filled, but they're not going to leave. This is all I'm going to say about your aura on camera. You're not going to be allowed to be where you're at right now. You're in a hell realm game. You're not going to be allowed to be where you're at without opposition. And there's definitely a lot of opposition I see in your aura, which we can talk about off camera. But anyway, I do see also, that high, it's true what you're saying. You are under a very high level connected, time. So it's really good.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about that in a bit. You got me all.
All right. Oh, move on, so it's not a 3-hour show. All right. So tips and tricks to tell if you're dealing with an NPC. Be aware, though, that it's not a static programming. I mean, AI is very sophisticated. It adjusts. They're always up-leveling the game. But this is some things that we have found, in interacting with people that we know 100% are NPCs that are consistent. So they are very dull. So one of the tricks of consciousness, like if you listen to Don and I talk, and I would guess your fiance, I don't modulate. I go with my emotion. If my emotion rises, it rises. If it falls, it falls. Spiritual people that say they're channeling certain ETs would say I'm crap and I'm not evolved and whatever. Actually, it's the opposite. So a fire creation being is going to be tapped into like a symphony of frequencies, and they're going to sound like a symphony. They're going to go up, they're going to go down, they're going to get loud, they're going to get quiet, and they're going to be expressive. And if you go and read some of the sub frequencies, one of the things I think I carry well in my voice, I actually think you carry it pretty well in your voice, is the frequency of power and wisdom. And you can hear this kind of resonance that isn't modulated beneath when real people that are old souls speak. And you won't hear that in an empty being. If you talk to my mother, you wouldn't hear that. She's going to be one note. She's going to be very dull. She's going to have very limited topics. She's going to talk about CNN. She's going to talk about how they're invading our country and taking over and all the programming stuff. You know, she's going to talk about the weather in Dubai because that's what everyone's talking about. You know, there's going to be no original thought. So look for, and when you guys are considering who to give your money for, I'd rather see you give your money, you know, towards someone who is laughing and crying hysterically than somebody that has a resting bee face and talks like this and everything they say. You know, if you guys knew me, well, you would all know who my shade was being thrown at. But it's funny because those people would say, they would look at me and they would say, you know, she's not spiritual because her voice isn't modulated. I disagree. But you know, there's no free thought. They don't understand complex thought. So you might be at the water cooler at work or the coffee, which you shouldn't be drinking, by the way. You know, if they're pushing something, if the matrix is pushing something, do the opposite. Coffee is pushed probably more than anything else on this planet. You guys, completely toxic, especially to super soldiers, by the way. Sugar and coffee, If you're a super soldier and you want to expand and clear trauma and remember, drop sugar and coffee as much as you can. Anyway, you know, but you're at the, you know, you're drinking your coffee and they're just, what are they talking about? They're talking about sports, which is all scripted. They're talking about Netflix. They're talking about whatever CNN was talking about. They're talking about Twitter. Like, no, there's no death. They're not talking about, do we live forever, or is somebody sold, or you know, what programming they're under, or their lucid dream, or, you know, they're not talking about anything like that. They're talking about, you know, their son's baseball game, their daughter's baby shower, you know, whatever, all the 3D stuff. I will say though, there's mimics. So there's a lot of walking in and walking out. Here's another fallacy of consciousness. Walk-ins and walkouts are special. No. We see constant walking in and walking out. My son-in-law has been walked in and walked out about 3 or 4 times since I've known him, and I've only known him 11 years. This is a, you know, we are a container. And if you, again, don't hold your body and don't have a certain contract or don't care if you're here, some of you guys leave. Some of you guys are like, I'm out of here. How do we get out of here? The very old volunteer souls know how to get out of here, regardless of what anybody tells you. You don't have to kill yourself to get out of here, be picked out of your soul family. Some people just walk out. They just walk out.
My partner, we actually just talked about this yesterday, was going through such a horrible emotional time. She recalls leaving for several months of her existence in this reality. She did come back eventually, but she
probably
said,
came back an upgraded soul. Usually when you come back, if the same soul group comes back, she probably came up in an up-leveled version in order to handle things more effectively than the old version was handling them. And so one of the beautiful things about the technology is we can like see all those variations, which is really, really cool. My daughter had a similar experience. She almost died 4 times during her pregnancy. And after birth, she walked out in a new same soul group, same being, walked in, so similar to her. So I totally believe that. So you need to kind of watch out for that. Because like I said, a walkout avatar left over with no current life force can mimic an original NPC. And again, the thing is, it gets confusing because we hold the memories in the body. in the tissues, in the organs. So when you do get walked in, it can be a mix. It can be confusing to people that can't discern like soul groups, because you're like, well, they're kind of like half this person and half that person. But there is, you know, walk-ins and walk-outs. And so you can sometimes encounter what seems like a fire creation being that's empty, but that's because the memories of a soul being are in them. So they're going to have some of the mimic behaviors. So it can get tricky. Most of the times it's not very tricky though. So there's various types of NPCs, including holographic projections, as I mentioned. Planes, cars, people can all be holograms. I'm sure some of you guys, if you ever watch your skies and see the planes chemtrailing, I'm sure some of you have noticed some of them can be see-through with your eyes above your house. And that's an example of a hologram. But also the cars, the people, one of the examples I like to use in Central Park, this blows people's minds. There's a lot of holograms in Central Park. So if you knew where they were and where to look, they're turning out my ear implant. They're like, is she talking about this stuff again? Let's distract her. Let's yank that ear implant up. But there are literally trees in Central Park you can put your hands through. And if you've ever watched one of my counter argument to David Pilates videos about the state parks, I think a lot of people are disappearing into the holographic base entrances and underground, you know, like Darrow entrances and stuff, because they're stumbling into accidentally these holographic, you know, entrances that you can go through, but they're covered with holograms, and they're, you know, hey, I'm going to take a, you know, I need to go to the bathroom, I'm going to lean against here, and they're gone, you know, and they snatch them and they're gone because they're not going to let them, you know, come back and forth. However, if you guys are highly evolved and understand portals, you guys, it's not like exactly like Outlander, that show where you get trapped. If you guys are a conscious sentient being and you understand how reality works, she should have just turned around and gone right back through that portal, which was completely possible. You don't have to get caught up and get lost to your family and go into other worlds unless you want to. So that's a whole nother conversation. But of course, holograms have no density. If you touch them, like I said, your arm would literally go through them. They can look solid though. They can have the composition where you could not necessarily see through them until you get a camera on them. The one picture I have, I'm driving alongside a car. When I took that picture, I didn't know it was a hologram. The light of the camera or the lenses of the camera revealed that when I looked at it later, but even to my eyes, and I have the sight, you guys, I couldn't tell it was a hologram. So again, you're interacting with beings and trees and animals and towns that are, you know, holograms. So there's shapeshifters as well, and that's different. This is like an electroplasma negative ET. It's like what I use because the mantis are big in this. A lot of people talk about the reptilian shapeshifters. That is true, but other beings do it too. The mantis, the insectoids do it a lot. They look superhuman. And when you encounter them, you start getting like haunted house vibes. Like when you encounter somebody who looks human, but is one of these really, really negative ETs, you'll feel sick. You'll feel, or your heart you might feel panicky, you might get cold, you might get chills. But there's usually a body reaction, because as a high frequency, all-time limitless beings of many races, you've probably been some of these, what we call negative races, which there is no negative or positive, but that's a whole nother conversation. But you've probably been, you know, some of these races. But in the human body has alarm systems against, you know, monsters, and you can sense it even despite the hologram. So again, when you guys have a weird feeling about someone, like, honor yourself, honor your knowing, even if mentally you can't see through them or psychically you can't see through. You really need to trust yourself and honor your knowing, because that's our most basic natural spiritual ability. And then this is so fun. There's a lot of these empty clone fill-ins, and there's a lot of reasons we say don't mess with them. Empty clone fill-ins are like after the mud floods, the orphan trains, all empty clone fill-ins. You want to know what black-eyed children look like? Go dig up some pictures of the orphan trains from mud. The whole mud thing is only half true too. So obviously we know that was a reset, but it was a reset with plasma weapons. highly advanced ET weapons. They did the mud flood as a cover to hide what the destruction was. So both is true, but neither is 100% true. So, it wasn't a mud flood. It was a cover flood for ET weaponry, but they brought in all these beings to refill society as the game replacements that were soulless, and they're biological. They're the clone bodies. But they have a lot of they're just totally, I don't know if you guys have really talked to people in the world lately. Like, go to a playground, go to a restaurant, try to go to a post office, go to a grocery store, start talking to people. There's nothing there, and they may be a number one of these beings, and even children, even babies. I mean, of course, they're so hooked into their screens. How can you be there? When you see a 1-year-old, it's so sad. Like, I see a 1-year-old in a high chair with a tablet in front of them. Not saying never, no judgment there. We didn't have that when I had my kids, but then you look in the child's eyes and there's a lot of this, what we call the black-eyed children. So that's where the whole black-eyed children thing comes from. It comes from this actuality of these empty beings. And they can have spirits. Why can they have spirits? Because right now we're at a game upgrade. Some people would say the game's ending. I wish this game would end. I would love to be on that train with you guys, that this game is over and there's a reset and blah, blah, blah. Maybe what they're calling a reset is what I call a game upgrade, but a lot of people say the game's ending. The game's not ending. This is a trillion, multi-trillion lucrative time and space game. It's an intergalactic game where many races come to play. It's not ending. It may be changing, but it's not ending. So I don't see that, unfortunately. I mean, I'm happy to have it end. I've looked at my timelines. I'm still here interacting with you all, at 100. Sorry. So if I'm annoying to you guys, I'm still going to be here. So check out before me, I guess. What can I say? But, I just don't see that in the timelines. So you guys might want to check. Of course, we're all on different timelines and we all have different perspectives, but it's interesting because the people that are saying the game are ending, they're still in my timeline. So that's interesting to me too. And again, a whole nother show. So, the clone fill-ins.
I just want to agree with you real quick because, again, this is from a regression. I'm still here in 2099. So, yeah, there's some really cool upgrades coming. Yeah. But I'm still here in 2099.
Interesting, because I see very, very similar. Good. I mean, I love confirmation. So that's awesome. Confirmation, one of the first people I've actually heard say something like that. So thank you. One of the things I want you to caution you against being is don't marry one of these people, don't date one of these people, don't sleep with one of these people, really any of these people. And it's sad. I've lost a lot of students because we've dug deep into this material in my monthly classes. And then they ask me, don't ask if you don't want to know. They say, is my husband an NPC? If you're asking me if your husband's an NPC, I think you probably know the answer, but guess who gets blamed? I get blamed, and then they're like, see, I am. I'm like, okay, I guess that's fine. But, and it's frustrating because we didn't know all this stuff. Maybe we did know on some level, but it wasn't out in the public as it is now. And so our children actually have a lot better realm of, as you said, podcasts and information. Even if there's a lot of stuff you have to sift through, I think they still have a lot more access to this stuff. When I was dating, I'm like, oh, just these are people and people are all the same. And I was coming from the Christian point of view. And now we know there's a lot more going on. So there's not many real players. Artificial intelligence abounds. So I encourage you guys to engage intelligently. If you see them doing street theater and you have things to do, I remember one time my daughter and I were walking in a restaurant and this guy pulled up right beside us, and then another guy pulled up and they started screaming at each other. And it started getting really, really hostile. And my daughter's like, Mom, this isn't real. They're doing it for you. Let's just go eat. So you can always decide if you want to engage in the game's little side things. Have you guys ever been, I know this is old school, but in certain games, you're playing the game and then all of a sudden they give you an opportunity to play a side game. They're like, do you want to, go kill more monsters and make, and you're like, oh, sure. And you're off, playing the side game. It's the exact same thing here. They're going to try to distract you, whether it's stalling you, wasting your time, getting involved in other people's drama, which is what a lot of street theater is very distracting. It's an energy harvest for them. So I don't care if you guys want to engage with a game, but do it consciously. Don't allow them to pull you in and do it subconsciously. Even not all reels are for you. Meaning just because someone is a fire creation being and likes to talk about ETs doesn't mean you should sleep with them or marry them or make them your best friend. Not all beings are on your level or should be invited into your world. You're much safer in nature. Nature tends to be a little more benevolent, but it's not all benevolent either. This is a dualistic game. It's set up that way. So there's going to be good fae and bad fae. There's going to be good dogmen, bad dogmen, good Sasquatch, bad Sasquatch, on and on. Let's even go further. Narnia tells us this, C.S. Lewis, good trees, bad trees. Tolkien tells us that too, right? So
Yep.
we have, going into nature isn't always the answer either. Where in nature? Are you on a negative ley line? There's a place in beautiful old place in North Carolina near a state park. Caution, always caution for me. And this beautiful lodge, and you can barely get in. It's called Snowbird Lodge, and you pay a lot of money to be there. And my daughter and son-in-law went, and my daughter's like, "Mom, you should come here." And I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "This place is haunted as F, the lodge, and the forest where they send you off hiking." And she goes, "John and I stumbled into a portal and we were surrounded by beings." And she goes, "And they weren't nice, Mom." I said, and she's like, I said, "Did you get any pictures?" She goes, "They weren't nice, Mom." No, she says, "We got out of there and we didn't go hiking again the rest of the weekend." So we wonder why people disappear. We don't listen to ourselves. If you guys are hiking and there's different areas, you can be, tripping along, getting messages, and the birds can be singing, and all of a sudden you enter an area and everything's still and you're being watched. Maybe turn back. Maybe, maybe pay attention. So we just trip around like we're not in this game where everything is rigged against us and things can turn on a dime. And we have to be, I just encourage you guys to just be alert and aware. And I want you to make conscious decisions. You're going to avoid a lot of pain and you're going to start creating the positive, because you can have an amazing positive life within a Hell Realm game. But you have to understand who you are, where you are, and how who you are and where you are fits into all time, all space. And most of us have no clue or only beginning to have a clue. Do you have anything you want to say before I go on, Don?
It was just something that struck me before we started this too. I don't know why this came to me, but like I knew I was going to be talking to you and something popped in my head and it's like, hey, did you ever realize that a lot of the places you've lived the majority of your life have been used for filming locations?
Oh, that's
Almost
so weird.
everywhere I've ever lived, even the town I live in right now, was largely in part the filming location for Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Wow.
Like almost the childhood town I grew up in was the filming location for One Magic Christmas. Medford, i.e. Meaford, is where my mom grew up. Like my entire life has been on film sets.
Huh.
Like they didn't even hide it.
Actually, that's interesting because that's interesting. I'm gonna have to think about that. My aunt's house was used as a filming location, actually.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was just something that came to me today.
That's interesting. I've never heard that, but thank you for saying that. I'm gonna start thinking about that, and I might start throwing that in too. So this comes up all the time in scans for you guys. When I run hundreds of scans a month, you guys are interacting with a ton of NPCs, and it's in a negative way. So I have it specifically coded in the back to tell me, is this like neutral, positive, or negative? But a lot of you guys are just allowing these empty game AI manipulation beings to, I call it ping pong your life. You can live your life two ways. You can be in the in the pinball game machine where you're the ball and the game's just hitting you around, you're bouncing off, you're reacting, this is getting thrown at you and you react. And or you can be the creator. You can make up, you can be programming the game. You can write your own game within the game. And so again, you wonder why your life is stagnating or your marriage is weird or you can't get ahead. Like you're constantly like letting these people pull you. It can even be your children. When I say people, read friends, family, children, spouses, best friends, animals, whatever, relatives. I'm not saying strangers. I'm not saying street theater. I'm talking about people are in every family. We see that there's a percentage of people that are soulless or people that are, you know, more NPC and people that are fire creation. We're not even talking about awake or non-awake, which is a whole nother level. One of my daughters, I haven't looked lately. She may have a walk-in. One of my daughters is absolutely empty. And that surprises people. But why? You know, when you have 4 children, chances are you're going to get some plans in there, right? Like kind of steer your family some interesting ways. So yeah, it doesn't matter. Again, we're in a game. We chose to play a game. Everything matters. Nothing matters. So again, sometimes too, Don, when we get into this and I have to stop myself too, I'm like, does it really matter? I mean, does it really matter if they're charging $5,000 and they're a fraud? Yes and no. It's a game. They can do what they want. It's just a game. So I have to like, it's really hard. And I think we all kind of have to every day kind of hit that balance of how we want to play it. Do we want to play it like hardcore? This is real life and it matters. You know, what about the other 4,700 parts of you? Don't they matter? Do you guys know what the other 4,700 parts are? And all those 4,700 parts, and some of you only have 5 and some of you have more than that, but those all have that butterfly ripple effect on us and how you wake up feeling in the morning. And we're not even talking about the emotional states that ETs beam on you or the programs beam on you. We're not even talking about the mental implant thoughts. So I can't even believe we can figure anything out, Don, because we're so under it from so many levels, you know. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with us sometimes. One thing I do want to mention, there are vampires, ghouls, elementals. This is truth. There's a reason why there's legends galore. There's a reason why there's sightings. There's a reason why this is such a part of every culture, you know, in the game around the world. And there's all kinds of beings I don't have time to talk about. But it's funny because I'm going to be doing, well, I won't say this, but in my YouTube channel, I will be bringing one of these people across the screen. You'll have to figure out who it is when I get to them. I'm not going to call them out. But I look at them and I'm just like, they're a ghoul. They're a death, you know, they look exactly like this, like a Sith Lord. They're like Walking Dead. Their skin color is almost this color, by the way. That's another clue for you when I bring this person across my screen in the next couple of days. But I have a hard time. I'm like, am I the only person in the world that can see this stuff? Like, if you, Don, can identify things like the filming location, to me, you should be one of the people. I'm not saying whether you are or not. I would think you can read some frequency when you look at people and start to see, this person doesn't really seem like a person. They seem more like this, you know, whether it's a type of ET or, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, because when we still shopped at Costco, it actually became an amusement activity playing real or fake.
Oh, that's fun.
And yeah, like we would go through Costco and you know the mob's going to be there, but they're not just there for you, like you said. So
Right,
you're like,
right.
okay, that one's mine, that one's mine, that one. Oh, look, a real person. That one's mine. Oh, that one's theirs. But
I love
yeah,
that.
like Costco became a game because we knew we had to go into it. We knew what it was, but we're like, F it, let's turn it into something amusing.
I love
And
that.
yeah, it's an energetic frequency. It's picking out the percentages.
Right. I totally agree.
Yeah.
It's funny though to me though, again, when one of these beings doesn't hide themselves very well and they come out in such a public way, like they're so bold. Like I'm like, really, a ghoul is like speaking on podcasts, like, and I'm the only one that sees it. Like it just, I'm not saying only one, but you know what I mean? I did talk to another guy. One is a girl and one is a guy, and he also had identified this same guy as, you know, this creature, but not very many people notice that. And it actually seems it's almost like they cast some kind of spell because they get booked a lot. Like they get booked way more than me. I'm like, you guys want to talk to a ghoul? Why? You want to take life advice from somebody that's like peddling death? Okay, go for it. You know, it's just so funny to me. So go ahead.
I think that comes back to the frequency interference, though, because I think a lot of what's going on with our biological vessels is the frequencies that are being shot at us are hindering or throttling back our perception of the other densities, right? So yeah, you can see it because you vibe very high. Your pineal frequency, whatever part of the connection to light you want to that we were talking about, you have. It's why there's different experiences. Like two people will see a UFO and then the 100 other ones didn't see it, right?
That's a good point.
It's that it's that frequency perception why some people don't see these things.
I agree. And I think the key, if you want to see and you guys don't see, I think one thing we need to look at is purification, including how much nanotechnology is in our body, how much heavy metals in our body, what are we eating? I mean, pretty much the food supply is so disgustingly corrupted. And we're talking fruits and vegetables. We're talking nuts. We're talking the things that nutritionists tell you to eat, you know, as the healthy stuff. Even all that is so corrupted. I do agree with you that it's almost like, you know, we're trying to go up and they're bringing us down. Like we're trying to remember who we are and connect to our abilities. And it's always this like tamping down and repressing. So certainly no judgment and not easy. Some of us, I think, had been through enough reincarnation cycles that when we came into this one, I came in with memory and activated abilities. But I think that was hard won from other past lives. I don't think all my past lives I had even what I have now, if that makes sense. I think that's part of why we're here. And the process, just like you being activated when you were activated. I do want to say something about you publicly. I don't know if you're, even though I said I wasn't going to do this, I got curious for myself, so I'm doing it selfishly, but when I was talking to you, because I'm what they call, I'm one of the Anunnaki, which I don't go around talking about. Yeah. That's not my sales pitch because I don't think it matters. Like you said, and we explained why it does and doesn't matter kind of earlier, if you want to go back and play that. But you are definitely one of the Anunnaki. Do you know that?
I did not.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely part of that. One of the original overlords of this game, which is interesting. So not too surprising you found your way back, just because usually Anunnaki is almost always first wave. So like I would have been surprised if you hadn't found your way back, if you hadn't been activated, you know?
The top of my crown is like my hair just stood up underneath my hat and my head is vibrating.
Yeah. And I think also that's why you and I have a resonance, why you're drawn to me, and why, you know, why we have such an easy time conversing. Because again, I immediately saw that we're from, I'm not saying on this level, but up like soul family. Like I think we're part of the same soul group, probably up further, if that makes sense. Anyway, sorry, you guys, that was off. I just had to tell you guys that I saw that he was Anunnaki. Really, it just started like broadcasting really clearly as you were talking that whole time. So there's another little piece for you to sit in. Yeah. That was nice. Just not the last. Okay. So I just want to wrap up and then let you go where you want. It's funny. After I said that, I think they're attacking my eyes. Oh. They're like, no, don't tell people what they are. All right. Okay, so there's different types of fire creation. I go into it. I have an NPC really cheap book on Etsy if you guys want to get it, but fire creation beings have access to all your all-time, all-space information, all the races and aspects of being. You can create original or build original off existing creations. One of the other things, I mean, a lot of empty beings and NPCs, they don't do anything original, like we said. And some of the fire creation beings don't either, but some of the accusations of the community against each other, he copied this, she copied this, I said this, I was teaching this, and they started teaching this and all that. I'm going to tell you guys, there is something called, both within the game and outside of the game, collective consciousness. So we are drawing from collective consciousness and we're contributing to collective consciousness. Someone may have never watched my videos, but maybe teaching similar things because they pulled it from mine and others, you even said, what's his name? Billy Carson. I didn't know he taught. I don't know what Billy Carson teaches about. I just know he's on the list of that I got from Homeland. But anyway, that's another conversation again. But you know, where'd he get it from? Maybe he was handed it, maybe he got it from the collective consciousness, maybe he got it directly memory, who knows? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that I'm imitating him or he's imitating me. It means we're both connecting, however, and you know, getting similar information. So be careful when you guys jump on each other and accuse each other of stealing stuff, because sometimes we're really getting it out of the collective, and maybe you were the original one, maybe you weren't. I honestly think there is no original thought. I think we can build off original thought, or you know, and everyone's like Tesla. I hate to tell y'all, he did not have original thought either. He was not the original creator of that technology. You need to look up Vol. You need to look up lots of other scientists have contributed to this field of study. It's just they want to push him for specific programming purposes because he's very involved with the secret space program. So he's very tied in with programming triggers for super soldiers and the space program and the corporations. He worked for the corporations. So they have an agenda. Don't, you know, they're not giving you these juicy little things, you know, for the fun of it. But anyway, the others are controlled by the inside game information and AI programmed information. But I just want to leave with, you guys are unlimited and infinite, and it doesn't matter if you've chosen to have, you know, we've all chosen to play in this limited experience, but it doesn't change who you are at the core. Go ahead. Sorry. Just wanted to wrap that.
No, I love it. I just wanted to side note on the Tesla thing. I literally just saw some diagrams the other day, how that's actually part of the same energy technology from back in the pyramids.
It is.
It's the same concept as coil, where they were pulling energy from the ionosphere. And I have a whole other thing that people have heard me mumbling about with the ionosphere and emotional frequency and why we feel so down on ourselves. Because they taught us all of this in grade 8, that the ionosphere is what they bounce low frequency radio waves off of. Well, guess what? Every one of our emotions has a frequency. So if it's bouncing everything below 100 off of the ionosphere, it's just pelting back onto us. And that's why we have such a difficult time getting the high frequency connection to light source. Like,
I agree.
I know I've been about that, but I just want to put it back out there again, because I love everything we have talked about, and you've given me so many ideas to come back to when I have you on Mad Chatter with Maya, because again, like every time you were saying, "Oh, that's another show," I'm like, "Oh my God, is it ever?" Because
I get off on bunny trails. That's fine.
But no, absolutely. Thank you for being on the show. Do you want to give everybody a quick wrap up of where they can find you, where to check out your website, your available services, and all of that?
Yeah, just really quick, secreteverything.com, or you can type my name into Google. I'm pretty out there. I have Secret to Everything YouTube channel where I put, you know, a lot of free information. I just put up a process, I think today, that I took from one of my classes. But I have a monthly group which you can join, and the information's on my website. It's called Ultimate Evolution, and I teach stuff like this. I do live processes. We have guests. Sometimes we have sound healings and different things, but it's kind of my core community. Usually it's who spills over into the live events. I also teach isolated classes. We're about to start next Saturday, navigating the astral, which is not just dream time, but how to go into the astral and really use the astral to create, which I consider the astral all time, all space, just for my definition, but how to create your reality and really use the astral to do it in all different areas of your life. And then, of course, my scans are all up there. I do a secret space scan. I do what's called a full scan, which is mental, emotional, physical. If you want a reading, I do one-on-ones. That's more the remote viewing and past life stuff. And I do even email readings for really low cost. If you want to do more like psychic questions or simple questions, I can tell you like who's in your soul group. I mean, there's really nothing I can't tell you, because between me and the technology, we can read most frequencies. So that's kind of a synopsis.
Yeah. And again, it's been absolutely amazing. I can't believe we just blew through like that much time that fast. But thank you again. I can't wait to see you again on Mad Chatter Show. And thank you everybody for watching, and see you next time.
Thanks, you guys.
Oh, I gotta switch. You gotta stop recording because I've switched control over. I got someone in the meeting.
I can take over his show. Yay. I'm kidding. Hold on.
Hi, Jack.
Let me,
Please
okay.
do.
I love it.